Of course, one of the biggest things in all the world of entertainment right now is the impending sale of Warner Brothers to apparently Netflix, but Paramount is still sulking like a little whiny bitch around the courtrooms trying to get anybody to listen to them. But Paramount could still come out on top of this too. But for now, Netflix has technically won the bidding war and they're moving forward as if they're getting ready to take over the studio. Now, one of the biggest apprehensions that a lot of people have had, including me, has been Netflix has never played well with movie theaters, and that's been to their detriment, in my opinion. And I said when the news first came out that Netflix wanted to get a hold of Warner Brothers, I said Netflix getting Warner Brothers would be the worst possible case scenario. Now, in subsequent weeks, they have done some things to soften me on that. Talking about, hey, listen, theatrical is still not Netflix's business, but it is Warner Brothers' business. And Warner Brothers is in the theatrical business. That's why we want it. We want Warner Brothers to stay in the theatrical business. Why would we buy it otherwise? We already do streaming. We're already the king of streaming by a mile. We want them because they're a movie studio and we want to get into the business. And then they said, we're still committed to a theatrical window. But Rob, even that raised questions because people were like, well, what do you mean by a theatrical window? 5 days? 7 days? Fair questions. Well, now this headline in Deadline has come out. Ted Sarandos has now come out and said straight up in an interview, no. 45, the current industry standard, 45-day theatrical window. And then he goes on in this article to explain why. He says, because there's billions of dollars of revenue to be made. He said, I now want to be the champion of the box office. We're champions of streaming already. I now want us to be the champions of the box office as well. And right now, the way they do it, 45-day windows, which I wish the industry standard was larger than that, but 45 is what it is. We're committed to it. That's what we are doing because it's in our best interests to do it that way. Netflix isn't going to adopt it. Netflix isn't going to start putting out its original movies in theaters because that's not what Netflix does. But Warner Brothers, this is why we want to buy them. Because it gives us a theatrical studio, because it gives us a distribution workflow. It gives us all that stuff, and that's what we want, and that's why we're going to stay committed to a 45-day window. So, Rob, I'm still of the mindset that the best possible outcome of this whole thing is that Warner Brothers doesn't sell to anybody and just stays Warner Brothers. That's my choice. But I understand that's not happening. So what's the next best thing? Well, I got to say, I have been convinced. I'm convinced now. I have gone from Netflix getting it being the worst case scenario to now Netflix getting it being the best case scenario if Warner Brothers isn't just going to stay independent. Because they're going to keep Warner Brothers with a semblance of independence. And for an industry standpoint, Rob, and Ted Sarandos points this out too in his interview, that listen, Paramount, just by merging with Skydance, Paramount laid off billions of dollars worth of people, laid off so many people. And Ted Sarandos said again, if they get Warner Brothers, it's going to be tens of thousands of people, he said, would get laid off or going to lose their jobs. He said, with us, we're keeping everybody because we don't have any overlap. There's nobody that's in a position at Netflix that would have a similar position at Warner, but they're two separate companies. We're going to keep everybody. So I've gone from being very, very against Netflix to getting them to being, well, if Warner Brothers isn't just going to stay independent, I guess Netflix is the next best thing. So
guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, the new year doesn't require a new you, maybe just a less burdened you. Most of us carry around things like pressure, self-doubt, or that feeling that we always have to be perfect, and learning to let some of that go can make a huge difference in our lives. Therapy can help you better understand what's weighing you down by giving you an unbiased perspective on your relationships, motivations, and emotions. That's where BetterHelp comes in. See, BetterHelp connects you with quality therapists who are fully licensed in the US and follow a strict professional code of conduct. product. They also do the matching work for you. You fill out a short questionnaire, and with over 12 years of experience and industry-leading match rates, they usually get it right the first time. And if you ever want to switch therapists, you can do that easily from their tailored recommendations. BetterHelp is also one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, plus an average 4.9 out of 5 rating from over 1.7 million live session reviews. BetterHelp makes it easy to match online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's BetterHelp.com/Campea.
I love what I'm hearing here, Rob. You have read this interview. What are your big takeaways from what Ted Sarandos was saying?
Well, again, he's talking about, he's come out and said, while one group is suing Warner Brothers, Ted Sarandos is coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to commit to a 45-day window. Because I think he understands that basically what he's buying is credibility for his own network, that he's got a conduit of stuff that's going to get an A-list treatment around the until, and I think also, you know why I think Ted Sarandos doesn't have a problem with any of this? Because rightly or wrongly, he knows that the theatrical marketplace is on, it's not going to last much longer. He knows that eventually the theatrical business, it's either going to be sustained in major cities. Like, look at the list you read yesterday, on the most successful movie theaters: New York, LA, Toronto, pretty much.
But it's never been anything other than that. Like, right. You go back to 1990, then those would have been the cities that were the biggest.
But movie going is still big, of course. But I'm just saying that movie going is diminishing in many different places. And while there's probably always going to be movie theaters like IMAX theaters and event things like that, he knows that why not support theatrical for as long as it exists? Because all it does is add to the value of our library. And if Warner Brothers has the year in 2026, 2027, 2028 that they had in 2025, and we get all those movies, all that diverse slate from everything from Sinners to Final Destination to One Battle After Another to whatever, that's a great thing for Netflix in the long run. And those are movies that are never going to go out of style. And why not, as long as they're going to have theatrical bankability behind them, all it does is help our brand. And you don't see that coming from Paramount. Netflix is in the business of entertainment. They want great TV and they want great movies because they want people to keep subscribing to their network. And there's nothing to lose by allowing Warner Brothers to do. They want Warner Brothers to Warner Brothersing, or keep Warner Brothersing. That's what they want. And I think that's a really smart, very savvy business model to take. I mean, why would you want to you're buying Warner Brothers for yourself. That's the stock price. David Zaslav has increased that stock price. They've had a great year. They're probably going to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards this year. And they made $2 billion on horror movies or whatever. I mean, it's all good. Ted knows that. Ted's no dummy. Look at how happy him and David Zaslav were on the back lot walking around Warner Brothers.
Well, I mean, look, there's a couple things I want to address. Number one,
they get a water tower out of it.
And a really great water tower where apparently Yakko, Wacko, and Dot are living. So kudos to anybody who understands that reference. So look, I disagree with you, Rob, that the movie theaters their days are numbered. I'm sorry. Like, I've literally been hearing that song and dance since I was a child. When TV came around and households got TVs, they said movie theaters are done. When the VHS was created, they said movie theaters are done. When DVDs came out, they said, oh, now you can play movies right on your computer. Movie theaters are done. When streaming came out, they said movie theaters are done. Now, yeah, we've been hit with a pandemic and a strike and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people believe, I don't know how optimistic I am about it, but a lot of people believe that 2026 is going to be a very big year. And we'll see how that goes. Now, look, the second thing I want to kind of point out too is this. And I've seen this all over the place, and it makes no sense to me. I see a lot of people, even in our live chat, saying, yeah, but do you actually trust Ted Sarandos? Do you actually believe he said that? I don't know that he's going to stick to his word. Here's why I trust it. You know why I trust it? Because of greed. I always trust greed, man. I always trust other people's greed. If greed dictates a motivation for somebody else, I trust them to follow that. I 100% trust them to follow that. The reason Ted Sarandos is saying all these things is because it's in his best interests. Everything he's saying is in his best interests.
Yep.
He's greedy. You don't think Ted Sarandos is greedy? You best believe Ted Sarandos is greedy. And the reason he's saying that, we want to make these billions of dollars that's being generated in the theaters. That's in his best interests. We want to not only conquer all of streaming, we want to be the kings of theatrical. That's in his best greedy interests. The reason I believe Ted Sarandos is because he's a greedy son of a bitch, and all of this feeds his greed. So you're damn right I believe him. If he was coming out here and saying things like, we want to buy Warner Brothers because we want to turn it into a doggy park where people can bring their pets and sing songs and everybody can roast marshmallows, I wouldn't believe him for a second, because that's not in his best interests. But when a movie executive, same is true of a politician. If you got a movie executive or a politician, whatever, and they start telling you things and you realize the things they're telling me are actually totally serve their own greed and their own best interests, you can probably believe it. And that's why I believe, because there is no other rational motivation for why would Ted Sarandos and Netflix even want to get involved in this whole mess? Because they're greedy, and this feeds their personal motivations. And so when people ask me, well, why do you believe Ted Sarandos? Because everything he's saying is 100% believable to a greedy movie executive, and that's why I trust it. I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that?
Well, I think you're probably right. And look, a good businessman recognizes how to do good business. He's not Gordon Gekko, who wants to wreck a company because it's wreckable. You know, he's trying to build an entertainment brand that's going to survive for another 100 years.
And make him lots of money doing it.
And make him lots of money doing it. And the thing is, you know what? Warner Brothers movies are better than Netflix movies. And
yes, they are.
And he knows that. And it's like they have relationships with filmmakers we can only dream to. I mean, eventually, you know, people, is everybody going to come over to Netflix to make movies? Eventually, probably. But, you know, Warner Brothers is still making prestige titles, and they're making movies that people are going to see. And I think it makes sense that they do this because it works. They get access to filmmakers that are great. The filmmakers don't have to worry about, oh, you're just making a movie for streaming. You know, they don't have to worry about trying to, obviously, they were not keen into jumping into theatrical themselves. Now that problem is solved. So no one's going to get mad. Maybe we can get Christopher Nolan back. You never know. Who knows? Because we got a theatrical arm now. And I think it's smart. I think it's really smart what he's doing. And they're getting other things. Again, what Warner Archive has done with Warner Brothers' rich legacy of films over the last 100 years with George Feltenstein at the head. He's at Warner Brothers already. They're restoring some great movies. Netflix could have their own. They could just benefit for all the work that Warner Archive has done over the years. And they've got access to all of that now. It's all content that's not on their streaming service that they could exploit, that gives people a whole new area of Netflix to go enjoy. And it's amazing. All the TV shows, you know, I was just reading an article. I didn't know anything about this, but I own it because Warner Archive sent it to me. There was this Western TV show called Cheyenne that was made in the 50s that Warner just spent a lot of money restoring. And it was from the 50s. Never even heard of it. But they sent me the beautiful box set, and it's a precursor to the kind of TV that we get now. It was one of the first hour-long dramas. And I'm like, this sounds awesome. I just read a long article about it. Even though I have it, I knew nothing about it. I hadn't cracked it even open. Netflix is going to get that whole show. And it's like 8 seasons long. And even though it's a 50s Western, it sounds pretty dope. And suddenly Netflix, they have access to the whole thing. And they'll put it up and get it. And that's just one thing of the hundreds, if not thousands of things in the Warner Brothers library. So it's great. It's great.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? In case it seemed nebulous before, Netflix is now coming out and saying, listen, just to be clear, in case you didn't pick up what we were dropping down, We want to put these movies continued in the industry standard 45-day theatrical window like everybody else does. That's because it's going to make us money. And we want to be the champions of the box office. We want to win the box office. What do you guys take away from that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.